There are good games, there are great games, and then there are the untouchables, the sacred cows, the games that have been placed on such a high pedestal by critics and fanboys that to even question their genius is considered a crime. Well, today I'm not just questioning them, I'm putting them on trial. This isn't a list of bad games, this is a list of the most overrated, overhyped, and blindly worshipped games of all time. The games that are good, but they're not that good, and it's about time someone said it, and with conviction. Let's get on with it. Kicking off is Bioshock Infinite, a game that is gorgeous to look at, has a mind-bending story, and is an absolute chore to play. The original Bioshock was a masterpiece of claustrophobic horror and environmental storytelling. Infinite threw all of that out for a generic wave-based shooter set on a bloody sky zipline. You spend half the game fighting bullet sponge enemies that have nothing to do with the plot, just to get to the next bit of admittedly brilliant story. It's a fantastic movie, trapped in the body of a mediocre video game. Overrated. Right, let's get this one over with. Red Dead Redemption 2. Is it one of the most beautiful, detailed, and immersive open worlds ever created? Yes. Is the story of Arthur Morgan a gut-wrenching masterpiece? Absolutely. Is it fun? For about half of its 60-hour runtime, no, it bloody isn't. The controls are heavy, the mission design is archaic and restrictive, and the sheer unadulterated realism, skinning animations, looting bodies, cleaning your guns, strangles the fun out of it. It's a stunning achievement in world building, but it's also a masterclass in tedious, self-indulgent game design. Skyrim, the game you've bought on 8 different consoles, the one with 1,000 memes, and the one with combat so shallow you could paddle in it. The exploration is brilliant, the sense of discovery is unmatched, but the actual moment-to-moment gameplay, it's a joke. Every dungeon is the same Draugr-filled corridor, the story is utterly forgettable, and the RPG mechanics are a mile wide and an inch deep. It's the ultimate fantasy sandbox, but as an actual game, it's almost impressively mediocre. Heresy time. Final Fantasy VII. Not the remake, the original. The game that supposedly defined the JRPG. And in its day, it was revolutionary. But let's be honest, through a modern lens, it's a clunky, poorly translated mess with a story that is borderline incoherent without a bloody flowchart. The materia system is genius, Cloud and Sephiroth are iconic, but the random battles, the snail's pace, and the blocky, Popeye-armed characters have not aged very well at all. It's a historical artifact, not the timeless masterpiece everyone pretends it is. The remake exists for a reason. Play it. Metal Gear Solid 4, or as I like to call it, Cutscene, the movie, the game. This is not a video game. It's a hostage situation where Hideo Kojima holds you down and force-feeds you hours of convoluted exposition, occasionally letting you get up to play for 10 minutes, before going back to more self-indulgent cutscenes. The gameplay that is there is brilliant, a fantastic evolution of the series' stealth mechanics, but it's buried under an avalanche of self-indulgent, nonsensical cinematics that make a final, desperate attempt to tie up a story that had long since gone off the rails. Here's a controversial one. Uncharted 4, the graphically impressive and critically adored send-off for Nathan Drake, and it is a stunning technical achievement. But it's also the most boring Uncharted game in the series. It slowed the frantic, explosive pace of the originals to a crawl, replacing thrilling set pieces with long, drawn-out sections of walking, talking, and tedious crate-pushing puzzles. It's a somber, mature reflection on a character who was beloved for being anything but. It's a fantastic story, but it forgot to be a fun video game, a self-indulgent wank piece. Yes, I'm serious. Grand Theft Auto 5, the single most profitable entertainment product of all time. A game that is, in its single-player form, a profound disappointment. The 3-character gimmick was a narrative failure, with none of the characters being as compelling as Nico Bellic or CJ. The The story is a nihilistic, unpleasant mess with nothing to say, just loud, crude humor without the nuance of GTA 4. And the heist missions, the supposed core of the game, are a handful of restrictive on-rail sequences. The game's success is almost entirely down to GTA Online, a microtransaction-fueled nightmare that has held the single-player hostage for over a decade. Alright, let's really start the fire. Time for the first deep dive. Suspect number 3, The Last of Us. The original, the game hailed as the Citizen Kane of video games. The undisputed champion of narrative storytelling, the one you show to your non-gamer friends to prove that this medium can be art. And I'm not going to argue with that. The story of Joel and Ellie is, without question, a 10 out of 10. A masterpiece of character, tone, and emotional devastation that culminates in one of the most powerful and morally ambiguous endings in all of fiction. The story is strong. Even if it's just taking bits and pieces from other media, the problem is the story is the only thing holding it together, because back then it was literally the closest we'd come to hitting that video game/cinema crossing, where our silly little pastime even crept into the mainstream, and it felt good to be part of that, and maybe that's what got us all swept away in the moment. Because let's be brutally honest, the gameplay in The Last of Us is a 6 out of 10 on a good day. It is a clunky, repetitive, utterly unremarkable third-person stealth action game built on a foundation of waist-high cover, tedious crafting, and predictable enemy encounters. Every single gameplay section is a chore, a frustrating, tension-free slog you have to suffer through to get to the next bit of brilliant story. Sneak past some clickers, find a conveniently placed plank of wood, push a dumpster, get into a firefight with brain-dead NPCs who run directly into your line of sight. Craft another shiv. It's a gameplay loop that was already dated when it came out in 2013. The story is the shield. It's so powerful, so emotionally resonant that it tricks us into forgiving and even forgetting that the game we're actually playing is profoundly, unforgivably mediocre. It's not a masterpiece of game design, it's a masterpiece of narrative, desperately propping up a game that would be completely forgotten without it. Now for the big one, the one that will get me death threats from an entire generation. Luckily, they are my generation, so I know their weaknesses. Bad knees, bad backs, and if I need to go there, their families. You've been warned. Suspect number 2, Super Mario 64. The game that invented 3D platforming. The game that single-handedly defined a genre and proved the viability of the Nintendo 64. A revolutionary, genre-defining masterpiece that changed the industry forever. All of that is true. It did all of that in 1996. Back then, I was 6 years old, and I got a star on my chart for not pissing the bed at night. These days, I never piss the bed, and I can make silly YouTube videos, but you don't see me getting glazed 30 years later as some kind of dry night media prodigy. Let's take the nostalgia goggles off for a moment. Let's be rational, not sentimental. Let's analyze the evidence as it exists here today. And today, Super Mario 64 is an almost unplayable nightmare. The problem is twofold: a pincer movement of archaic design that strangles any potential for modern enjoyment. Firstly, the camera. It's not your ally. It's a drunken, cracked-out maniac. It gets stuck on walls, it swings wildly with a mind of its own, and it seems to take a perverse pleasure in positioning itself at the single most unhelpful angle possible, usually right as you're attempting a critical jump. It's an active antagonist, a constant wrestling match that you will lose over and over again. Secondly, the controls. For its time, they were a miracle because they were the first to take us into that new dimension. Today, they are slippery, vague, and imprecise, and can be done better by a nerd in Roblox. Mario feels less like he's running and more like he's ice skating on a greased-up floor. The disconnect between your input and his movement leads to a constant, low-level frustration that leads to a lot of missed jumps and cheap deaths. It's a game that is almost impossible to enjoy without the thick, rosy filter of nostalgia. And here it is, the big one. The final boss, the single most overrated, overpraised, and untouchable sacred cow in the entire history of this industry. The game that sits atop Metacritic like a smug king. The game that tops every best of all time list. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Held up high by the hardcore Nintendo man-babies who latched onto Link because they had no real friends, and they're still not ready to let that friend go. This is the game that's held up as the perfect game, the pinnacle of interactive entertainment, a flawless masterpiece, and it's fine. It's a good game. It was a great game, but the best of all time? Fuck off. That title is a delusion, a collective mass hallucination powered by decades of weaponized nostalgia. The world, Hyrule Field, was mind-blowing back then, but today, it's an empty, lifeless expanse of green smudge. A glorified loading zone you have to run across, slowly, over and over again. The combat, it was revolutionary, yes. The Z targeting system changed everything, but the actual act of fighting is a tedious, repetitive loop of waiting for an enemy to attack, backflipping, and then poking it with your sword. There's no depth, no variety, no real challenge. The dungeons are brilliant, yes, but they are padded out with endless, tedious fetch quests and backtracking that serves no purpose other than to artificially inflate the runtime. And Navi, my god, Navi. The single most irritating, useless, and patronizing sidekick in the history of video games. A shrill, incessant blue blur that serves only to interrupt your immersion and state the fucking obvious. Ocarina of Time is a foundational text. It is a revolutionary piece of game design that wrote the rulebook for 3D action adventures, but its reputation has been inflated by years of collective amnesia into something it simply is not. It's not the perfect game. It's a bit of a boring relic that has been lapped, improved upon, and made utterly obsolete a dozen times over, often by its own sequels. It is not a god. It is one important part in the larger history of video games. And that's the video. Look, there's more videos to watch. So what do you reckon? What games would you have on this list? Or more specifically, the part 2 I'll cook up to piss off the PlayStation fans? Let me know down in the comments, and while you're at it, like, subscribe, and give the bell icon a ding. I've been Chris, you've been gorgeous, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, cheers my dears.